Good to see you. Thank
see you,
you for your time here today. And actually, it was a good segue with the prior speaker on the criminal justice reform. So that's an issue that I've worked a lot on in the recent sessions, and it's something that I think we desperately need to have information on. My question is a little bit different than what was asked, and that is the fact of we have so many times in state government, we have so many different entities doing the same thing.
Right.
So my question to you is specifically as to the fact of we have right now the House and the Senate we formed the Criminal Justice Reform Caucus. We have 2 judiciary committees that work on looking at ways to save dollars as well as, and then we have obviously the Department of Corrections and Secretary Wetzel that's looking around for any ideas. All information welcome. Can you give me more of specifics as to, from your direction, I don't want the overlap. I don't want, us all being searching for the same type of information, all using taxpayer dollars to do it, and yet coming up with the information that we repetitively.
First of all, we've done previous work in different audits on this very topic. We did an audit looking at all the state's drug rehabilitation programs, saw significant overlap, made a lot of recommendations. Some of those are being fulfilled. We're going to be soon coming out with our workforce development audit. That started because we were very concerned that a lot of different agencies were doing the same thing and not coordinating. Again, I understand why different agencies would have a role, but at least having the coordination. Certainly on criminal justice, again, don't want to tip the hand because we still have a lot of work yet to do, but it is a concern that different agencies aren't having the proper coordination. Again, I get corrections is going to be different than the Department of Drug and Alcohol. I mean, they just have different roles, but at least making sure there's better coordination is critical to getting criminal justice reform right.
Okay, so you're coming at it from the perspective of the different agencies and what their roles are in performing.
That will be part of the, so it's not just about the money. And I think part of how you get to better savings is having better coordination among the agencies so that you lead to less problems, which thus lead to the savings.
Okay, so it's not only a performance audit, but it's also a financial and
Correct.
the dollar. Okay, so it's a little of each. Okay,
Correct.
Thank you for that. And many, many, many moons ago, having worked at the Auditor General's office, I remember having the Performance Audit Bureau as well as the Special Audits Bureau, and I'm just trying to better understand how it happens, because you do a lot of special audits, and they're in different entities, and obviously some of them fall into natural school audits or that
Right.
type of thing. So does the staff in those particular bureaus of school audits, when there's something dealing with that and you're doing a special audit that doesn't necessarily have to do with the school books, which is the typical how you go in there, it has something else dealing with, and some of the, you talked about the pharmacy benefit managers, you talked about firearm safety, as well as taxing marijuana. So where would taxing marijuana go? Like, what bureau do you use the established bureaus, or do you use special audits all the time for all of these? I'm just trying to figure out how that works.
Yeah, on that one in particular, we have people that are, I guess the best way to say it is they're part of the Special Audits Bureau,
Okay.
but they have writing skills that we tap into for those type of reports.
Okay, because my understanding, so they don't necessarily have the background of taxation, or do they?
On that one, in friends, or
That one in
others,
that one just in particular.
Yeah, we look at they have a lot of research skills. They look at again, like you take for example when we're looking at a healthcare issue, we don't have any doctors, but we look at the research of what's happening in other states,
Okay.
and the financial implications from those.
Okay, I was just trying to understand, like I said, the staffing, and you're not asking for any more staffing or anything like that, so I was just trying to figure out how you negotiate moving those folks around as to what their expertise.
I guess you could say is I'd like to think of myself as a coach in this. You try to use the players that you have and utilize
Who
the
you
talent.
have.
You utilize the best talent you have, and some people have different skills.
Okay, and my last question is the fact that when we're talking about, and actually you sort of answered it when you talked about the grocery store as a joke, but the ability for, what drives the ability for you, I know you have the ones that you're mandated for, like the performance audits or dealing with welfare offices and all the different agencies, you have in the school audits and that type of thing. So when you have something else that comes along, is it driven by, you mentioned 32 that are driven by the legislature, what other entities come to you and ask for an audit that you consider?
The one that I know that's specific, and we haven't really gotten a lot of requests from the executive branch, but there was one that came specifically that there was a concern about oversight of the nursing home industry.
Okay.
And that was one that came from the governor's office. They said they were concerned about how they were handling the issue themselves, and they wanted somebody independent
To go back into the past.
To go back and look at
Okay.
it. And so that was one, again, we met down and we worked that out with the administration, because one of the things that I always insist on is if we're going to do it, people have to live with the result, whatever it is, because once, whether it's the General Assembly, the governor's office, or whatever it may be, once the audit starts, there can be zero effort from the entity we're auditing to try to squelch that audit.
Okay, and I appreciate that information. I look forward to getting the results from the criminal justice side of things. We have a lot of work to do with that, and we have a lot of agenda items to do so. So I'll say that, and on a side note, keep your hands off Harper. Thank you. Goodbye.
And thank you, Representative, for your leadership on criminal justice reform. It is appreciated.